In this series of videos, we'll be learning how to do twining. Here are a few examples. We're going to be starting with this style. It's a pouch that is created on a cardboard loom. This is a style maybe we will explore later where you don't need a loom, but you're using something thicker like jute or hemp to twine directly onto. This one is not finished, but a finished edge would look like this on this miniature basket. Now, twining takes place in a lot of different cultures around the world. This is a style I've learned from a Yakima elder, and here's some images from the Grand Ronde Reservation at their museum, and based on how the basket looks, they can tell what area it was created. Now, the first thing you want to think about is what is the problem you're trying to solve? We don't want to just make stuff to make stuff, but what is the problem we're trying to solve? Because that's going to help us create our item. For example, this one here is meant to hold my Kindle so it doesn't get scratched or damaged while traveling. This one, which I'm going to be working on, is designed to hold my cell phone because a lot of items don't have pockets. And then also this one, I like to hold little journals with a pen. So this one I've got just the right size for my mini composition book and a pencil. So what is the problem you want to solve? Now let's also think about materials. When you're thinking about cardboard, you don't want something too flimsy. If you can find something that is thick and also shiny on one side, these are nice and sturdy. If I look at the edge, it has a nice corrugated cardboard, so it's very stiff. These ones I have a lot. These are some Amazon boxes. You're gonna notice they're a lot thinner. So if you use this style, it's easier if you can kind of see the spine. There's the parts that run this direction. That's gonna keep it a little stiffer. If the inner construction is this way, they just kind of bend a lot. So be thinking about your materials. So I've got a piece of cardboard, and you wanna find a piece of cardboard that is going to be a little larger than the item you wanna hold. So that's going to allow some space for the yarn. Also some other variables like how tight you end up twining, that tension. So I want mine, I'm gonna have it a finger length or finger width larger on each side. The top and bottom you want a little bit longer as well because you need to cut this to hold your yarn. So in this case, I've cut my cardboard to be 12 centimeters wide and 22 centimeters tall. Now to make the loom portion, I've drawn a line 2 centimeters down from the top and 2 centimeters up from the bottom. And I'm going with every 1 centimeter, I made a dot. And then I simply cut from the end of the cardboard all the way to the solid line. So now, and I can put this a little closer, you can see these are all cut 1 centimeter width, 2 centimeters in length. And now I'm ready to string my board. Now I tend to like the thinner yarn to get my loom ready and then use thicker yarn for our next steps. So I'm going to take the end of my yarn and I'm putting it in the upper left corner, and I need to leave a little bit of a tail that we'll work with when we're all done. So I'm going to pull this down, and this is the top. I need this to be open for my pouch, and this part I need to be closed for my pouch. So I'm pulling my yarn down, and anytime I'm at the bottom of my cardboard, I'm going all the way back up. I'm going back through that first one here. Anytime I'm at the top of my board, I'm going to turn around and go to the next slit and pull tight. So again, I'm going all the way down through the slit and back up, going to the top, through the same slit, and at the top I turn it around. So you'll notice that there's a pattern that you can kind of check to make sure that you're doing it correctly, because if you go all the way around the top, you're going to have it closed and you won't be able to put items in your bag, and that's kind of a bummer if you don't find out till you're all done. So here I'm starting to notice no line, line, no line, line. I'm going to come all the way back. When I go to the top, I'm turning it around, all the way down and around. I get to the top and I turn it around, down, and around, to the top, turn it around, down and around. And again, I'm gonna leave a little string here. This tail I'm gonna work with later. And now I can check, right? No line, horizontal, horizontal, horizontal. And I'm gonna go through the front. The tail would continue this way, so that's continuing the pattern. And I also like to flip it over and make sure on this side, it's also still meeting that pattern. Okay, now I have my board. My board is a little larger than my project on the sides. The top and bottom, I've allowed that space for the slits to create my loom. Now my loom is strung and I'm ready to start weaving. Now I'm gonna start, let's see. So now I'm ready for my yarn. I like to choose a thicker yarn because it's just gonna mean less times you're twining to get from the bottom to the top. And just think about 3D printing. You're slowly doing one layer at a time. So I think this is a 6, and I like to use synthetics whenever I have them, but I use what I have so I can use it up. If I'm gonna be doing 6 rows, I'm gonna measure this and go 1, and I'm not pulling tight, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, plus a little bit extra. I'm gonna do an extra row and cut it here. Now I can just simply pull this off, and I need 2 pieces of yarn. I'm choosing 2 different colors so that they're visible for you. And we'll be choosing blue. We'll do some Seahawks colors. So I'm gonna put my 2 ends together. I'm gonna make a circle and push all the ends through and just pull this nice and tight. I don't need this to be long. I'm pull a nice tight knot. I'm just gonna measure how long my green was and cut my blue to match. So now I'm going to put one leg of this behind the string that's at the bottom left corner, and I'm pulling it down, and I want my knot on the outside. And don't worry about this, we're actually creating our pouch inside out, so this will be hidden later. And so I have 1 strand of yarn on one side of the string and 1 side on the other. Now this is kind of long to work with, so I just fold mine in half a few times. And then I do what's called a slip knot. So I make a circle, and I use my pincher fingers to just pull a little bit of the yarn through. And now it's shorter to work with, and when I'm ready, I can just pull it and my knot pops apart. So don't pull it too tight. You don't want any knots in your yarn, but we'll just pull it through, and we'll do the same to the green. Just kind of fold it in half a few times just to shorten it and make it easy. Okay, so I'm going to be doing my weaving from the bottom left across the right and around till we make it to the top. So we always take the yarn that's on our left. It's going to go over the yarn on the right, which is the blue, so it's going over this and behind the next string. I'm going to pull it, and I don't need to pull it tight, I just don't want any big bubbles. Now the blue is on the left, and it's going to go over this bit of green and behind the next string. And this is the motion we'll be repeating over and over all the way to the top. Every once in a while I'm pulling it. I don't need to pull it tight, but I don't want any big bubbles, and I'm also slowly pushing it down. I pull my yarn towards me, my green is on the left, up, over behind. Now my blue is on the left and it's going over behind. Green is on the left, it goes over behind. Now we've almost made it to the other side here. And when we do, we're still going to go over behind. So I'm going over the blue, behind the next string. And, oh, I want to tighten that. It looks like it loosened up a little bit. There we go. Now, my blue is on the left. It's going over my green. I'm flipping my card. It's going behind the next string. I'm just continuing. Green is going over behind, pulling it towards me. Now blue is on the left, it's going over behind. Just going to make sure it's snug, pushing it down. And you're going to find what works for you. When I really get going, I tend to turn mine 90 degrees so that I pick up the next string, and it makes it easy to push the yarn through. Now I pick up the next string, but I'm still pulling my yarns towards me. Now the blue is next to me. Now the green is next to me. And I'm just walking my fingers up to the next string. Now the blue is going over the green as I flip my card and going behind the string. Keeping my knot on the outside, because again, this is the inside out right now. And I'm working on my second row.
Unfortunately, I lost some video here, but you're going to notice I'm creating a checkerboard pattern. The first 2 rows alternate green, blue, green, blue. After the first 2 rows, I gave an extra half twist before starting my third row, and so now it's green, blue, green, blue. And after 2 more rows, I was going to do an extra half twist to create a checkerboard pattern.
So now I have 2 rows. I did an extra half twist to get the checkerboard. Now I've finished 2 more rows. I'm going to do that extra half of a twist. I want green to show up, so that means blue goes behind, green goes over the top. And I can continue, and I'm going to continue that checkerboard pattern. So now let's look at the original pouch I showed, if we can figure out how this design was made. So if we cover this up, this portion was just 2 white strings for several rows. Now I have 1, 2, 3, 4 rows that were 1 blue and 1 white. Then I did 4 rows of 2 blue strings, 3 rows of 1 blue and 1 white, 2 white strings. Here, if you look at this one, this diagonal, it's just like the checkerboard pattern that we just did, except for after I go all the way around, every single time I'm doing an extra half of a twist. So instead of stacking the blue on top of the blue, it's alternating, which gives me that diagonal look. This portion is a little tricky. It's the same idea. I'm doing an extra twist, but once I got to this corner, I started twining from right to left instead of left to right. So now my diagonals are going the other direction. It kind of gives it like a wood grain pattern. But I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows. And every time I finished a row, I did a half twist extra. And then again, here I went right to left, doing a half twist extra. And then the top, I tried to have match the bottom. So you can see 2 white strings, a blue and a white, 2 blue, a blue and a white, and 2 white. So now we're going to look at how to change colors and how to end our project. So I had a technical difficulty, so I lost the video where when I got to the end here, I made a circle with my yarn just like at the beginning and pulled the ends through, made sure my knot was nice and tight, and trimmed it. So I just ended, because I have 4 rows like this on the front, I want to make sure I have 4 on the back before I cut it so I know it's even. I'm going to end this one with just plain white at the top. So I measured my yarn. The one that I tied off on is the one where I'm going to put my yarn behind, just like I started at the beginning. My knot is here. I've got 1/2 of my yarn on one side of the string, one on the other. And again, this is the one I tied my knot on to end. It's also where I'm starting my next row. And it's a little harder to keep track when you're using 2 colors, but I think you'll be able to do it pretty easy. Of the string on the left, the yarn on the left goes over the one on the right and behind. It's going to start to get a little tighter as you get towards the top. That's where it's helpful if you've been pushing down along the way, because you can always fluff it up when you're all done. But here I'm going to go over and under, and just like I have before, over and under. So I'm going to work on my 4 rows, and then I'll come back on how to end the final project. Now as you get further, there's just not very much room to work with. If you'd like, you could use these big plastic needles so that it's easy to go under and pull it through. Or I usually just kind of force it a little bit. I've got this big knot where I've got my slip knot and I'm pushing it under. And if something comes undone, you can always just kind of place it back in. But these needles definitely make it easier to see what you're doing, and they're really flexible. They don't poke you and you can pull. So that's another way you can go about it. But we're going to continue to work and finish another row or so. So I'm going to stop here just so to make it more visible on how to end it. I usually try to squish in at least one more row just so it's nice and tight. But I've got 2 rows of all white. I'm taking my ends, I'm making that loop, pulling my yarn through. And in this case I have a lot of extra because I was planning on going further, but I think this will be easier for visibility. So I end my knot here, cut off the extra, and now I had those horizontal lines at the top. I'm just going to push those off, flipping them over the tabs. And we're so close to being done. It's super exciting. So I flip all these tabs off, and I should still have that first tail and that last tail. But I'm ready to kind of work this off of my loom now. I'm pulling out my cardboard. Please don't throw your cardboard away. You can reuse them or trade them with somebody else if they want to do that size. Pull this out, and before I flip it around, because remember it's still inside out, I need to do something with these tails, because if they come down, all this is going to get undone. And that's where a crochet hook can be super helpful. So I'm going to find, so this string where my tail is going up and down this way. I don't want to pull it down that way or I'm going to unravel it, but I'm just going to poke my crochet hook through a couple of strings here, and I just have a little tension to pull it down, and maybe I'm going to weave it back up the next row a little bit. So I'm just kind of pulling it between these layers to hide it. It's easier when it's the same color, and weaving it up and down a little bit just so it doesn't come undone. And that's probably enough for that one, but I think I'm going to do one more just so the top isn't showing any frays. I'm going to pull it down one more, and you just need some tension on it while you pull it through. Now I can cut this one. I'm going to do the same with that second tail. I can see it's going up and down here. It's like a spine for my whole weaving. So, but I'm going to go next to it and just slide under there. That's why it's nice to not weave too tight so you can work with it. Pull it under. And let's see, I'm going to pull it up through this direction. This is probably the hardest part. And I can trim that now. I think I'll trim these. And now I can flip it around, right side out. And I can still see the loops at the top, but I've been pushing my yarn down, so now I can pull it up a little bit and it'll move up those spines and fill in. So like I said, I usually like to do one more row, but I think this is going to be fine. I just don't want it too loose so things fall out. And you'll see I can pull it and see my fingers through, but it's pretty forgiving. I'm just going to keep squishing it so it's about the same density all the way around. And now I have a nice little pouch for my composition book, and it fits just right in there. I still have room for a pen, but I could have probably even gone a little bit wider if I wanted to stick a few things in there. And now I have my pouch, and if I'm interested, I could braid extra yarn to make an over the shoulder portion and then just pull it through here and tie some knots. So I have some options, but here's my little pouch that I designed for my composition book. And here was the template. So you can see it was just the same size, but because of the density of my thick yarn and those extra knots, I probably could have had it even a little bit wider if I wanted a few pens and markers. But there's my first pouch.